where Tracy Jones, welcome to the program. I hope you're doing well. How's the rehab on the nose coming along?
I am. It's not real good. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it is crooked. It's got a bump. Hey, Tom, before we get started
No, wait, no. Hold on a second about the nose thing. And I mean this sincerely because I know people who have broken their noses before, and if it's not fixed the correct way, it can lead to, some breathing problems and all that kind of thing. Are you going to have to get this thing re-broken, quote unquote, or fixed?
Don't say that. Please don't say that. That hurts. Just you saying I'm going to have to.
They put you under sedation when they do that. Are you going to have to get the thing fixed?
Not with me. I can take it with no anesthesia, nothing, no painkiller. Just boom and straighten it. But there's a big bump in my nose, and Danae spotted it. It says it doesn't look good. It looks like there's really an issue there. I don't know what I'm going to do.
All right. So what were you getting ready to say? You said before we go any further, what?
Yeah. I do have to straighten some things out. Last Thursday's show, I was rather embarrassed, and I need to apologize, Tom, to your mother-in-law. To attack her like I did is uncalled for, and I think I crossed the line. I'm very, very sorry for that. My wife didn't talk to me for 2 or 3 days. Aunt Martha, who watches the show in L.A., was not talking to me, and it was, you don't attack a woman, especially an elderly woman. And I'm wrong. I'm wrong. And I tell
my mother-in-law was flattered you talked about her at all. I talked to her after the show. You have nothing to apologize for in any form or fashion. So tell Danae this is not a big deal. My mother-in-law is very thick-skinned. She got a kick out of the whole thing. There is no reason to apologize. Thank you, but there's no reason to.
Well, to say stuff that I said because she doesn't like me, I don't even know your mother-in-law. But to say I don't like her and then to say some things. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do for your mother-in-law. I want her to go to eBay. Does she know what eBay is?
Yeah, she's very she's very tech savvy. She was a business professor at a university out in Arizona, and so she's very tech savvy. Yes, she knows eBay.
I want her to search Tracy Jones on eBay, and there's gonna be like 74 different items on eBay, which is an extreme amount, I think. You play for 5 major league teams. That's a lot of memorabilia. I've got bats and jerseys and all that. I want her to pick out an item. All right, Tom? And this is going to take a while. This isn't just 1 or 2 days. Tell her to take her time, take a week, take as long as she wants, pick out an item, and I will sign it for her.
Well, she will be very appreciative. She is a huge, huge baseball fan, sports fan. Yeah. I mean, she talks sports with me and our son, and like she's one of the guys. So she will love it. And to have your autograph, I mean, that might replace Polly and I's wedding picture in a place of prominence in her house.
Tom, here's the whole deal. I'm not going to charge her for that. I'll do it for free. And I also want to I just want to add a little something to that. I want to take her out to dinner.
She may not like that.
Well, we'll go to Walt's Hitchin' Post. They've got a great Tracy Jones bone-in ribeye. You know the steak, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Do they really? At Walt's Hitching Post, they have a Tracy Jones bone-in ribeye steak?
How many steaks do you have named after you, Tom?
None. It was a package deal, something the Brennaman over at the precinct for years and years. But when I went south, that steak name went south.
Hey, also something kind of unfinished business. I said something on Thursday was a problem show for me. I received a lot of negative email on saying that Johnny Bench was the second greatest catcher ever.
Yeah, well, you should have taken heat for that.
Well, I should have until I went and did some research.
Okay.
And I looked at Pudge Rodriguez's stats. He's a 300 hitter.
Yes, he
Johnny is not. I have a higher lifetime average than Johnny Bench. I'm not saying I was better than Johnny. I wasn't, but I had a higher average. And then also what kind of separates Pudge from Johnny Bench is Pudge played for 6 major league teams. Johnny only played for 1. So I think that puts him over the hump, doesn't it?
I don't know what barometer would be used to put him over the hump on that one. But go ahead. You were saying one other thing.
And one more thing.
Yeah.
I went back and listened to the interview that you had with Johnny Bench.
Yeah.
There's a lot there.
There is.
And there was a lot there. And I'm disappointed in Johnny. For him to attack Seg Dennison like he did, I think is uncalled for. Seg Dennison would give you the shirt off his back. Now, you don't want Seg to take the shirt off his back. Believe me, you don't want that. But I'm telling you, he's a good person. And I don't like to see someone, punch down on someone without someone coming to his rescue. And Seg's never said a bad thing about anyone.
No.
And for Johnny to do that, I think is come on, Johnny, you're better than that. Seg's a good man. He got into take a shot at Bob Trumpy, right? See,
well, I think the point he was making is that, and I don't want to speak for Johnny Bench, but if I remember the interview, and I've spoken with Johnny about this before, is that when everything, and look, one of the most memorable moments of my life, I will never forget this till the day that I die. Johnny and I were announcing the Reds games together.
Yep.
And the team was in Pittsburgh. And everything was going down with Pete and the gambling situation, suspension, etc. Johnny and I are in a car. And while we were in a car, I have no idea. We could have walked. But we were in a car. We left Three River Stadium. We were going to the hotel. And Johnny had asked Roy Alfers, our distinguished producer and director, to drop him off at KDKA Television. This was at 11 o'clock at night. I go back to my room, and I said to Johnny before he got out of the car, I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm going on Nightline with Ted Koppel tonight. Now, you remember that show. That was one of the most important television shows there was in America. Big on time. At 11:30 every night, Ted Koppel, big-time show. I go back to my hotel room. I turn on the TV, and there's Johnny with Ted Koppel, and he lays Pete out like nobody's business, just like he did in the program last week. Said the rules are the rules. You're caught gambling. They are what they are. Right. Off you go, okay? Right. I think what Johnny was saying is when that happened, and I was in shock sitting there in my hotel room after being in a car with a guy 10 minutes before. I couldn't believe he did it. And I'm not saying he was wrong for doing it, but I can't believe he did it. Right. And the backlash that he took in this town for giving his opinion he felt, I think, has really cost him. And I think when he was going through some of that sort of just airing it all out and laying it out there, I think he was just saying there were a lot of people around here, and he mentioned my dad too. He said that, all took Pete's side, and, it's one thing if you don't agree with me, but now all of a sudden you start to say this, and this about me. And he thought it was unfair. I think that's all he was saying.
Yeah, and I respect his opinion, but it's just one of those things, if you play with someone, you don't think I know stuff about went down? I mean, I was playing when Pete was doing all his thing. I mean, I know Paul Jansen and Tommy Giosa and Fat Mike Bertolini. I know all those guys. But it's one of those things that you see stuff and you just kind of keep your mouth shut. And I just kind of took that road. And I think Johnny, a little too hard on Pete, in my opinion.
All right, I want to move on to the current.
And way too hard on Seg Dennison. Seg Dennison is like Mother Teresa. Come on. Don't take shots at that poor guy. Okay. You're better than that, Johnny. Don't be punching down.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I want to talk to you. We know the Reds are sitting on 99 losses. They have 2 games left tonight and tomorrow. And the season is over. It's been brutal right from the start. There's no two ways about it. On multiple levels, it's been brutal right from the start. But Hunter Green, when this kid was coming out of high school out in California, everybody wondered, would he be a pitcher? Would he be a hitter? Could have been either way. The Reds take him with a number 2 overall pick. I still can't believe Minnesota didn't take him when they had the chance, but they didn't. And good for the Reds. They get him. He's coming up through the minor leagues. Tommy John comes all the way back. This is his rookie year. He had his ups and downs early on. But Tracy, the way this kid has closed the season, man, I mean, this guy looks like he's got a chance to be really something special. What are your thoughts on Hunter Green?
Well, let me go back to something you said, and the Twins not taking him number one. I know the reason why they didn't take him number one is his dad was a little pushy with the general manager. That's a true story, right?
Yep.
And who was the general manager? Was it Ryan?
He was filling in. He had come back, yes, to take that job on an interim basis, yes.
And Hunter Green's dad, kind of pushed a little bit.
Terry Ryan. Yeah.
And he didn't like that. The general manager didn't like that. And he told Hunter Green's dad that you don't have to worry about us taking him number one. And he left. Is that a true story?
That's it. That's what I heard. The same thing. Yes.
Yes. And it was the Reds getting a guy like Hunter Green. Hunter Green has thrown over 300 pitches over 100 miles an hour. There's no one even close to that, Tom. And you can say, oh, he has great speed, but you have to have other pitches. If you're throwing 100 miles an hour with a little movement, that's good enough. That's good enough to be a number one starter. And the point is, the Reds have a number one starter in Hunter Green now. I know it's a little early, but I think he's really impressive. Last 4 starts have been excellent. Really like Hunter Green.
All right, now let me ask you 2 questions based off what you just said, because I've heard a lot of very smart baseball people make this comment. With guys today throwing harder and harder and harder, more than at any time in the history of baseball. You got more guys out there throwing 97, 98, 99, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I've heard people say that batters are adjusting to this velocity with more and more frequency. That, yes, there was a time when you played, let's face it, when you were playing, I mean, Rob Dibble was a freak, and he was throwing 93, and we all thought it was ridiculous. He's throwing sliders at 90.
Right.
That kind of thing. But I'm asking you, do they continue to adjust to velocity?
Boy, for a guy who never played the game, you have some really good questions.
Thank you. How do you know I didn't play the game?
Yeah, you
don't I look like an athlete?
You know what? This thing, that's not you, Tom.
I'm well aware. I want to shave it off, and I'm going to shave it off Sunday night. I went into savage mode with Zim Houday to get the Bengals a win.
Yeah.
But after this game on Sunday night, this thing's gone. It's not me. Yeah. You're right. But go ahead about the velocity thing.
Yeah, about the velocity. I don't know if you can really adjust hitters. That's interesting that you should say that. I don't know how you make that adjustment to pitchers that are throwing 102 miles an hour. I brought this point up last week that pitchers are throwing 4 miles an hour faster than they were in 1999, right? Didn't we talk about that a little bit?
Yep.
And I don't know if you can adjust to a guy throwing 100, 102 because, Tom, you see it. I mean, guys are hitting 230 and guys are striking out. How is that an adjustment?
Well, I think that's the point, is that they're not. But I keep hearing all these so-called smart baseball people tell me that, or at least tell an audience if you're watching a game on television, that guys will adapt to the fastball. You obviously got to have some movement to it, as you pointed out a second ago. All right, next thing. You face some great pitchers. You played with some great pitchers. And I'm talking about Hall of Fame pitchers. I'm not talking about guys who just had a good couple of years here and there. You mentioned the name Jack Morris last week. Yeah. If you could sit down with Hunter Green this winter and, taking for granted, and you never want to take it for granted, that he's healthy now. But what's the next big step for him to being a legitimate number one pitcher in the big leagues?
I think doing exactly what he did in the last 4 starts. I think he lost his concentration a little bit against the Red Sox, but I think he just matures and mentally, physically, he's there. He's on his way. He's got so much talent. I mean, you brought up Rob Dibble, right? Throwing 93, 95. I mean, could you imagine 300 pitches over 100?
No.
I mean, it faced Nolan Ryan. Oh, how hard's he throwing? Oh, 97. I mean, he wasn't breaking 100, was he? But Hunter Green is, and consistently.
Yep.
I think he's another number one. Reds have their number one pitcher going into the future. And that's a big deal, Thom. You got to have that number one.
Well, I got to tell you, Tracy, I'm not so sure. Now, he goes about it in a different way, that's for sure. Green's right-handed power guy. But Lodolo, I got to tell you, I think they could be a number 1A there. I think Lodolo has every bit as bright of a future, even though it's done in a different way. I think Lodolo's future as a starting pitcher is every bit as bright as Hunter Green.
Okay, let's look at a playoff situation. Eventually, the Reds are going to get to the playoffs. It might be.
I don't know when that is. I mean, your lifetime. I don't know.
But you got Green and Lodolo. I mean, think about that power pitcher. You talk about Green, and then Lodolo coming from the left side. I think a goal of an organization, maybe I'm simplifying this too much, is you need three really good pitchers. You need that number one, and then you need a lefty, and then you need another righty. I'm talking about going in the playoffs and winning the World Series, and then you turn it over to the bullpen. I know that's simplifying things, but the Reds only need to come up with one more pitcher.
Well, I think the Ashcraft kid has a chance to be a really good pitcher. I mean, he showed a lot too. So, I mean, with those three guys. But, Tracy, here's the problem, okay? It's very easy, if you're a Reds fan, you want to get excited about something. And you have something to get excited about with these three guys we were just talking about, especially the first two. But, Tracy, I mean, I was just doing some reading yesterday about this stuff. Because I have YouTube TV. I can't watch the Reds. I don't understand how Bally Sports or whatever it is now, I don't understand how they can't get this mess straightened out and have the games on YouTube TV, but they don't, and so I haven't watched them in 2 years. But I still read about them. And you sit there and you look at the position players they have. Votto's coming back for another year at $25 million. If he's healthy and comes back from the surgery, he's going to be the first baseman. Tyler Stevenson, who has injury after injury after injury, is coming back behind the plate. Jonathan India is coming back to play second base, or so I thought until I saw some of these defensive metrics on India. I had no idea because I don't watch him. He's rated as one of the worst defensive second basemen in all of baseball. You've got Kyle Farmer has been a solid player for this team. There's no doubt about it. He is the leader of this club. And then you got Senzel in center, who, according to the same article I just read yesterday, is ranked among the worst defensive center fielders in all of baseball. So I'm asking you, from a position player standpoint, what are you getting excited about?
You're exactly right. I'm trying to sugarcoat it a little bit, trying to be a homer for the Reds. I think their position ball players stink. There's not an untouchable guy except for Stevenson. India's not an untouchable, right? Stevenson. They talk about moving him maybe to first base. I'm listening to the ball game last night. You've got Romaine catching, right? Or he's in the lineup. You've got Reynolds, who's a career minor leaguer. I'm listening to the game. I have no idea who in the hell these guys are. I mean, I'm trying to be positive on Lodolo and Green. But besides that, this organization's in trouble. It really is with position ball players. Now, things can change, but you make an excellent point. Position ball players, go ahead. Senzel was the second player picked in the draft. You can't miss on your second player. You didn't miss on Hunter Green, did you? Senzel gets hurt more than I do.
Yeah, he does, and it's a shame because I think the kid cares, and I really think he cares. I think that he's not some guy going through the motions with all these injuries and kind of laissez-faire about it. I think it deeply troubles him. It deeply bothers him. I don't know Stevenson at all. I don't know Indy at all. He's had a hard time staying on the field.
Yes, he has.
But I just think, Tracy, that what worries me. And I've made this analogy many, many times on this program, is that when you go back and you look at the Cubs when they won the World Series, the 3, 4, 5 years prior to that, they were losing 100 games. They were awful. But they had Javi Lopez. They had Anthony Rizzo. They had Chris Bryant. They had Jorge Soler. I mean, they
Addison
had some
Russell.
guys now. That's right. They had some guys now that could really play. I mean, really, really bona fide stars. You've got MVPs mixed in that whole thing. And then the Cubs, being in the market that they're in, they were able to go out and spend a ton of money on guys like John Lester, made a trade to get Jake Arrieta. You know, they went out and spent a lot of money in the bullpen. And so at the time when those position players were peaking, here come the pitchers that are peaking. It ultimately climaxes into a World Series, right? The Reds, being a smaller market team, my fear is we're all excited about having these young pitchers, but who's around to support them?
Yeah, I agree with that. Let me go back to the Cubs. The one great thing about the Cubs have had great broadcasters that made it great to watch and listen. Tom, who were some of those broadcasters with the Cubs? You know any of them?
I know them all. I mean, I was there.
Were you? Oh, you were there, weren't you?
I was there. I would not fall into that category of the Vince Lloyds and the Lou Boudreaux, and of course, you know, Harry Carey and Jack Brickhouse. Pat Hughes is a phenomenal announcer. You know, and now John Shamby's in that booth, and they've had Len Casper in that. Yeah, they've had a lot of great announcers in that town.
You know what I liked about you, and I don't want to embarrass you because I compliment you too much, but you're like an old school broadcaster. You know, the contrast is staggering. When you watch games going back in the 60s and 70s, the broadcast was so much better. You had guys like Dick Enberg. You had Vince Scully, of course. You had your dad, I used to call it Peak Marty, you know, when he was really good. And you fit right into that mode. It really is.
Thank you.
Broadcasters can really make the difference. And you Cubs had some very good broadcasters. And you were one of them, Tom.
Well, thank you. You know, they had some really bad teams for a long time. And that's where guys become good broadcasters, in my opinion. And Vince Scully used to talk about this all the time, that, you know, the hardest job there is in broadcasting is by far being a local baseball announcer with a bad team.
Tough. I used to love to go to Chicago. I'd go play the Cubs. I'd go 4 for 4, drink all their beer, make love to all their women, and then get on a plane and go back home. I tell you, I love going to Chicago.
Who doesn't love going to Chicago? It's unbelievable. Hey, some guy named Jim Lewis. You know Jim Lewis?
I do know Jim.
Okay, well, he jumped in on the program, and he said that nobody better than Tracy Jones. 6412 says, this guy's a nut. Where does he come up with all this stuff, says Dan. And Dan also adds, Tracy's hilarious. Seg is Mother Teresa?
Yeah. Johnny, don't take shots at Seg. Don't do that, because I'm going to defend Seg Dennison. It's not good.
Okay.
You can take a shot at Trumpy and the city of Cincinnati, but not Seg Dennison.
All right, is there anything else on your mind before we let you go here today on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon in Greater Cincinnati?
No, do you want to ask me any questions? Anything?
Well, I just, you know, you mentioned broadcast. Have you been watching? You know what? What are your thoughts? And I'm being serious about this.
Okay.
And I think it's fabulous that Joey Votto is getting out there quite a bit and putting himself out there to let people get to know who he is a little bit more, right? And what he's all about and his personality and all that kind of thing. I think it's great. He was at the Elder Moeller football game at Nippert the other night.
Yeah.
He was at another high school game. I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was a UC game. I can't remember. Moeller St. X game. He's singing the fight song with the elder guys and going over to the Moeller side and so on and so forth. He's been up in the booth quite a bit. He went out into the stands and all that kind of thing. Have you enjoyed seeing that, or are you kind of lukewarm on it while his team's still playing baseball?
I don't watch the TV crew, and I don't know how well he did on TV. I always find people on TV rather cheesy. But I did get a chance to listen to Votto last night. I thought he was excellent. I thought he told some great stories. He talked about how the Dodgers have tablets in their dugout for scouting reports. and they decided every player has a tablet with a scouting report. And they decided, hey, enough's enough. Let's just go by feel and experience and how we got here, and let's get rid of the tablets. I thought that was interesting for me. I really liked that. Talked about where's Aaron Judge going. He almost talked that broadcast like a sports talk show. And the Reds being so bad, the play on the field was secondary. And what Joey was saying was very interesting. And the other broadcaster, who's Jeff Brantley, Jeff and Votto going back and forth, excellent. The third guy just kind of, Tommy Thom, stayed out of the way. And I thought it was a good broadcast. I really did. And I thought Votto brought up some great points. He was interesting. He's very articulate. He uses big words that I don't understand, but he's smart. He's smart. And I'd like to really sit down with Joey Votto and get to know him because I'm very impressed.
Well, we've asked him to be on this program, and he has politely declined to join us for the big interview that we do on Wednesdays, which, by the way, tomorrow, we have Chris Collinsworth as the big interview
love
tomorrow.
Chris. Love his great family.
No doubt.
Hey, let me ask you real quick. Have you ever worked with anyone that you disliked?
It's funny. Somebody asked me this yesterday speaking at the Aganis Club, and I was fortunate to broadcast Major League Baseball for 33 years, blessed to do the NFL for 25 years. I only had 1 year, and it wasn't that I didn't like the guy. I mean, he's a really, really good guy. He's a guy named David Deal, who is a great offensive lineman for the New York Giants. It was his first year doing it. He was really, really nervous. Brian Billick had just left as my partner for many, many years, and we had done the playoff games, and I was going through a stretch. I'm not putting it on David Deal. And I was going through a stretch where I went from doing the playoff games, and because Billick left, now all of a sudden I'm dropping down the totem pole. And that was the only year that I say to myself, man, it wasn't just awesome. Because every other year, and for whatever reason, I was thinking about all my football partners today, and Chris Spielman, and Ron Pitts, and Anthony Munoz, and Brian Billick, and Charles Davis, and all these guys. And they have been fabulous. And David Deal worked his tail off. So I guess in essence, no, there's never been anybody that I didn't like. But that was the only year that was just different than the other years. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense, but I don't know why you were dropping. And I've told you this before. I like you better doing football games than I do baseball.
Well, thank you. And hopefully get a chance to do them again one day. I hope, because I like doing the football. And the last part about Votto before we let you go, because I'm being serious about this for a second.
Yeah.
When he's going to these different things he's going to, high school games, college games, whatever it might be, I think it's fantastic. But I'm asking you, do players that play with him, are they at all ever bothered by that stuff when they're actually playing a game and maybe he's at a high school football game in a different town?
Players don't like that stuff. And you know that, don't you? It's making them look
bad.
I
don't know if they do or not, because the players have changed so much. I think there was a time where there's no way in the world that would have happened. But it's a different age now, and maybe I sound like and I'm not sounding like the old guy because I think it's kind of cool what he's doing, but I'm just curious what maybe the manager thinks, deep down
Tom,
inside.
You remember the days where they would take 3 position ball players and put them on the concourse at Riverfront and they would sign autographs? Remember, that was a big hit, and then they kind of took that away. I mean, that's what Joey Votto's kind of doing. I mean, he's circulating with the people, shaking hands, kissing babies. I think it's good for the game, but I bet you there's some people that are a little jealous, a little envious. I think there was that problem with Brandon Phillips and Josh Hamilton, if I remember right.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, there was. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. You're right. Good point. Those are 2 names from the past.
Yeah.
All right, Trace. Well, have a great Tuesday. You and I will catch up again on Thursday, if that's cool by you.
Yes, that's fine. I will be in Mexico.
Really?
Yes.
What, are you doing a big financial show, or just you and your bride getting away, or is this like a landlord's convention? What is this?
we're getting away for a couple days, but if I tell you something, I will be broadcasting wherever I go, wherever I travel. I'm on the Thom Brennaman show.
You are the man. All right, Tracy.
And one more thing.
Yeah.
And one more thing. Seg is like Gandhi. Shame on you, Johnny Bench.
Gandhi. Good Lord. He's not built like Gandhi.
You got that right.
All right. I'll see you. Adios.
All right.
Adios.